In this very important video, we'll try and teach you how to determine if a stock is overvalued or undervalued. So our example will be Microsoft on August 22nd, 2017. The price was $72.98. So can you try and reverse engineer whether that price makes sense? Well, we got to teach you a little bit of finance. So what in theory should be the value of a share of stock? Should be the net present value of the future cash flows per share. There's other adjustments you'd make, but usually those are not critically important, at least not in this case. And that means if you discount, let's say 10% a year, $1 a year from now is worth 1 over 1.1, $1 2 years from now is worth 1 over 1.1 squared. And what rate should you discount at? Well, it's called the weighted average cost of capital, and this site, gurufocus.com, gives you, for any stock, that WACC. In this case, it's about 10% for Microsoft, and you have to know complicated finance to come up with that, but you can just look it up. So the value per share would be the NPV of the future cash flow per share, plus the initial cash on hand at this date that they have per share, minus the initial debt they have on hand on this date per share. And that's pretty much, with some minor adjustments in most cases, what the share should sell for. So what are some inputs you should put in? And if you can come up with reasonable inputs that come up with a value of $72.98, then basically then you can say the stock is fairly valued. If the inputs look like pie in the sky, then basically the price is too high. And basically if really low growth rates give you 70 to 98, then basically probably it's really a good buy. So what are the inputs we're going to need? Well, we got that weighted average cost of capital. So we'll use a two-stage growth model, okay? And we also need the current year's cash flow, which is not that hard to get off the internet. Okay, so for Microsoft, I found an estimate for 2017 of $4.27 per share of the current cash flow per share. And so we have a two-stage growth model, which means the cash flow will grow at a high rate for a certain number of years, okay, and then grow the rest of time at a final growth rate. You could also have a three-stage growth rate model. Okay, so then these are the inputs that sort of we can vary if we assume the WACC is given. So basically I put in today, I don't even put in today's date, the today function in Excel, NBC's favorite function, comes up with today's date. And then basically what we're going to do is get cash flow the rest of the current year, and then cash flow concentrated the middle of every year going, if the world is still here, I don't know, in the year 2525, but we'll add up 250 years here. Okay, so basically this date here, the formula is you average today's date and the first date of the New Year's Day of the next year, and that'll put you between today's date and New Year's Day of the next year is the date of the first cash flow. So on August 22nd, we'll have the first cash flow on October 27th. What should it be? We should take the cash flow for 2017 times the fraction of the year that's left, ignoring seasonality. That would be hard to put in. But basically the cash flow here, we take the current year cash flow, and then we would basically take New Year's Day of next year minus today's date, divide by 365 to see what fraction of the year that is. So here you can see we got about 38% of the year left. We've got September. We got 3.5 months there. Okay, left there. Okay, we've got August. Well, actually 4.5 months. So that's about 4 months and 10 days, and that's about a little more than a third of the year. So then we get a cash flow for the rest of the year that's a little bit more than a third of the cash flow for the year. That's what we've got there. Okay, now what do you get for 2018? Well, you take the current, well, first we need growth rates. So I do an if statement. That's why we have this module, this video in the if statement module. So if the year we're in is less than or equal to the years of initial growth, which would be 4, we'll take the first growth rate. Otherwise, we'll take the low growth rate. So you can see I have 4 years where I'm going to have a high growth rate here, and the rest will be the low growth rate for this two-stage growth model. So the cash flow for 2018 will take the current year cash flow times 1 plus the growth rate for that year. Then the next year, we can copy this down. We'll take last year's cash flow times 1 plus the growth rate. That just gets copied down. Now to get the NPV of the cash flows, these are irregularly spaced cash flows, and we put it at 0 for today's date. The XNPV function will show you the NPV of these irregularly spaced cash flows as of the first date on the list, okay, which is today. So you put in the WACC, then you put in the cash flows, and then you put in the dates. So we get 66.91 here for the cash NPV per share of the future cash flows of Microsoft by our assumptions here. Now the debt per share, I looked this up. This is the shares. This is the total debt. It's about 11 bucks per share. The cash per share is about $17 per share. So then the value per share would be the cash flow per share plus the cash on hand per share minus the debt. That's right here. Okay. Now you can reverse engineer. This comes out to basically this combination of inputs right here. Okay, let's put this in a different color. That combination of those three inputs gave a price that was equal to the price of Microsoft. And these sort of make sense. Microsoft growing 6.5% a year for 4 years and then 2% thereafter. Now, how did I come up with those inputs that basically made this valuation come out to what the stock was selling for? You could just mess around with these. Like I could say 8% for 3 years, and I could say 1% thereafter. And that's that pessimistic, that assumption would say Microsoft is worth less. But I would say you get 8% for 4 years, Microsoft still wouldn't be worth enough. 8% for 5 years, that's right about on target. There are a lot of combinations of these cells that'll make the value of Microsoft come out to the stock price. But I used the solver, which we really haven't learned about yet, and you could ignore this part if you want. But I said we will set the value per share as a target cell. The value will be the current stock price, and we'll change these three numbers. Say the years of growth is an integer, and it's a nonlinear model. If I click solve, there are plenty of combinations of these three cells that come out to 72.98, but we just could get one right here. Okay, so this would say 5 years growing 8%, and then a final growth rate of 1% would be 72.98. Now, I think Microsoft would do better than that. I saw one estimate it would grow Microsoft's cash flows at 8.5% per year the next 5 years, and I think they'll grow 1% in perpetuity. And so basically, I would say that basically Microsoft maybe is a little bit undervalued. But I mean, the stock price is in the eyes of the beholder, like beauty is in the eye of the beholder, whoever said that. And so basically, you can adjust these inputs and based on what you think is going to happen, and see basically if Microsoft is worth more or less or the same as what it's being sold for now. So I think this is a very useful spreadsheet.
Okay, so thanks for watching, and there's a free course, a free 21-day course from Dr. Winston, and all of these videos are coming from one of 3 books. So first, this one, which you can see here at the top of the screen, Microsoft's book, which has 355 reviews, and then it's, let's see, 4.6 stars. It's coming from this book as well, his marketing analytics book, which is down here, and you can sort of see 4.5, or his newest book, his analytic stories book, which is here. And with that one, you can see it's 4 point something, or maybe even 5. I don't think it's 5. Yeah, 4.8. And so, yeah, anyways, in the description, there's a free 21-day course from Dr. Winston, or you can go to excelwithwayne.com/free, and it'll be there. But again, thanks for watching, and if you have any questions, just please let us know. Thanks.